Let me bring in former U.S. Attorney and Avenue Strategies partner, Bud Cummins. But the reason this is a problem for Facebook is because what we know now about Facebook's just allowing abuse of people's data, Facebook allowing terrorists to roam freely, Facebook basically slicing and dicing the news based on political persuasion. That's just to name a few, allowing people to kill themselves or others on Facebook Live. This just rings true to people. What is your take on this?
You know, our laws have been more slack, I think, than maybe laws, privacy laws in other parts of the world like Europe. At the end of the day, Facebook's a public company, and no matter what noble things their leaders say, their main job is to maximize shareholder value. And what they have that's valuable is information about you, and you gave it to them. And we all give it to them because we're all addicted to these platforms. So, they've got good lawyers. I doubt that they've intentionally violated the law. But a lot of us don't read those. I don't think any of us read those long agreements when we get onto these social media platforms and start giving up information. And the information is very valuable.
But it does become an issue for law enforcement when you've had in the past, and I pointed this out as soon as Facebook Live, the live video streaming service or add-on that they have, people were committing crimes on basically and broadcasting it, and Facebook was very slow to pull down some of these videos. You have terrorists who were essentially roaming free, and in Facebook it's after the fact will pull down someone's account. But again, it becomes a law enforcement issue as well.
Yeah, but it's very difficult. I mean, I'd come back to you with a question exactly.
Sure.
What law could we pass or what regulation could we impose on them that wouldn't limit your use and the majority of the users' use that they want to have, the access that they want to have, and the tools that they want to use on Facebook and these other platforms. These are really hard questions for regulators and for lawmakers.
I think it will ultimately come down to disclosure of how someone's personal information is being used. It might be a change within the company where everything is in opt-in rather than opt-out. But they weren't. But they are not. Having been a user, and I shut down basically everything in terms of my data sharing years ago, location services off, because I was very suspicious of what they were doing with it. I think that ultimately there could be something that comes out of Washington that forces these social media companies to be more forthcoming and to do more to protect people's information. But we just found out that there's the data mining controversy. It was roped in the Trump campaign, but now it's roped in Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign. Critics are concerned her campaign's voter outreach app may have harvested Facebook data of millions by asking users to connect their Facebook friends list with their smartphone contacts list. So again, the outrage, this really has become, Facebook's come center stage because people were upset that somehow the Trump campaign might have used this information. So again, it's rage toward Trump that's now turned toward Facebook.
I think that the Trump campaign and Brad Parscale used the data better in this election than anybody else did. There's a question out there, even going back to the Obama reelect, whether Facebook showed favoritism to one side or the other, and whether that was an illegal campaign contribution if they allowed Obama in his reelect campaign to do things they weren't allowing his opponents to do. So there are a lot of really hard questions here, and a lot of things that make people very uncomfortable, make me uncomfortable. But I got to be honest with you, I'm an attorney. I've never read one of those terms of use agreements when I've opted into these platforms, and I don't know anybody that has.
Good morning, Bud. Erin Elmore here, and I'm an attorney, and I agree with you. I haven't read it either. You talk about the concern for the general public. We're talking about Facebook here, so everyone's shutting down their Facebook, checking their privacy settings. What about the simple fact that Facebook owns Instagram? Is this going on there too? Do people have to be worried over on Instagram? Is there going to be carryover here? That has to be a huge concern that people aren't really talking about.
Well, and if you want somebody to come on the air and explain to you how all this works, you got the wrong guy.
But we want to talk to you about the legal implications, and like you pointed out, like they've got an army of lawyers. That's why I'm kind of surprised that they were so lax. I mean, I've imitated Facebook's. In the last couple of weeks, Facebook's attitude toward police, even when kind of nefarious acts were uncovered, their attitude was like in the voice of a Valley girl, oh my God, don't do that. You really can't, you're abusing people's data, cut it out. That was their attitude, but continue.
But my question is, who's defining? I don't know that the rules are that clear. I don't represent Facebook in Washington, but they have a lot of talented people up there that are, lobbying on their behalf. And I haven't read an article or seen an argument, except for this issue about campaign finance and illegal contributions, that I see a real bright line rule that may have been violated by Facebook.
But I'll tell you rules that were violated is that the fake news that they were perpetuating, and they knew about it, and they actually took payment from foreign companies to send that out. So I think the biggest issue that we're going to have is that they should be held to the same standards that media companies are, because one of the things they want to do is be a media company, and they've said that. And we talked about earlier, you led off the segment, that their main purpose is to drive shareholder value and maximize their stock price. Well, one of the ways you do that is you take care of stakeholders, including your clients, including your customers, including your vendors, and you don't have short-termism. So what's going to happen is all the regulators are going to come in and see how they discriminated against certain users, advertisers discriminated, used their proprietary data, how people manipulated news feeds. Right. So I think there's going to be a lot that's going to come down on here, and they know they did something wrong.
And one thing before I move on to this last question, but I do want to point out is that the way that the Obama re-election campaign harvested data, this was before Facebook says that it cracked down on the access of these app developers to people's friends network, that they started to limit that amount of information. But during the 2012 re-election, it was free reign that these app developers had over people's information, and it was it was people's friends. So,
and Dagan, I can tell you that today there's software out there that can go out and aggregate all these platforms. If I want to know within 50 miles of you, right, who's posting about Dagan today, I can hit a button and I can see it all, and I can see through to their emails and their phone numbers, and it's out there. So if people, we probably have not adequately regulated this space, but you make a good point in the area of protecting shareholder value. When they stumble, they're not protecting shareholder value. And if they're exposed to be doing something that people really didn't understand they were doing, that's probably at least a business mistake if it's not a legal mistake.